episode 8. We've had a few
Let's
people.
go.
We've had a few people ask, "Is Matt okay?" So there's the foundation of mine and Matt's relationship is that he tells me some things, and I never really dig into them very much. Like, "Oh, I've crashed my bike," and then someone will say, "Oh, what happened?" I'm like, "I don't know."
Crashed
And
his
then,
bike.
what was it?
Well,
Was
why
he
do you
on
want?
was it a motorbike? Let me just check. Yes, it was. Oh, is he okay? I think so. That's kind of how that goes, and then we have a conversation and I find out all about it. So yeah, last time we saw that you had all casted up and you talked a little bit about you'd smashed yourself, but
Hmm,
people are concerned. Our loving, loyal fans, they want to know. They want to know what happened and how you're doing. So what
these
happened?
people
How you doing?
doing all right.
There we go. That's
Uh,
move on.
what happened? I was just training with a motocross bike and was not anything I haven't done before, but I think a sort of combination of a little bit too fast, a little bit out of concentration, not really much more than that. Maybe a little bump in a takeoff. I just crashed on a jump. So apparently from a reasonable height.
And
Definitely
you,
felt like a reasonable height because I had time to look down and go, oh no, this is
mm,
not going to be cool. And it wasn't cool.
no. How cool was it not?
This is plated. No, this one doing all right. For ribs, which are basically all right now. The lung, punctured lung. That wasn't very cool, but that's all right as well. Feels pretty good. Shout out WimHof breathing exercise. Been smashing
Mm,
into that. That's pretty cool. And that's also what I was tracking. So when I was going on trying to work out like, am I recovering or not? I've been tracking that, and that improved pretty quick. So that's quite nice.
like a
Uh,
progression on the holds. What's the?
yeah, yeah. So I wasn't really doing that much with those holds. I used to do it every day, but just it sort of helps me wake up because that whole Wim Hof breathing thing and ice baths and so on is like a adrenaline release, isn't it? It's like a self activated adrenaline release. So then in the morning it wakes you up. Then I try and meditate afterwards, which is a bit awkward. So I probably need to do
Mm,
those the other way around. Probably need to meditate and then do the adrenaline release. But
yeah, like full
so
throttle meditation.
yeah, so I was doing just the beginner Wim Hof one, and I think it was something like really quite short, like 30 seconds, 45 a minute, or 45 a minute, 115 or something like that. Um, when I was in the hospital, they gave me this sort of breathing. It's almost like a toy. It's just got like three balls in it, and you have to breathe into it and try and hold the balls up in the air.
Hmm.
And I was trying to do it, I couldn't do it at all. Turns out you don't blow into it, you suck on it. So when they told me that, then I was like, okay, so you have to like and try and keep it going. Try and
Gotcha.
keep one of the balls floating because if you suck really hard, all the balls just shoot to the top. But this is like a sort of grandma breathing technique, and you have to do like deep breathing. And part of the deep breathing is this long, shallow inhale, and then you can hold the ball
Mm,
up in the tube, and that just strengthens your lungs apparently. So what they were also interested in was how much oxygen is getting into my blood. And part of this Wim Hof breathing method is to increase oxygenization of the blood. So did a bit of that. And also NSDR Huberman, he does this long, shallow exhale. So I
mm.
was trying to catch both the long, shallow exhale train and this oxygenization of the blood. In terms of holds, I was doing those short ones, and then I found some quite nice ones because Colin's really into it, and he sent me
Yeah.
some links. So I managed to get up to within a week from doing like couldn't even do a 1 minute hold, I think, at the start. And then within a week, got up to sort of 3 minutes. But that 3 minute one is really a bit of a I'm going to drown struggle fest. So I just backed that off a little bit. And now I'm sort of regularly doing 2 minutes 30, 2 minutes to 2 minutes 30
That's
in
cool.
5 rounds. So that feels like it's worked pretty well. Because that's the main thing that was really hurting was not all the stuff you can see, because all this stuff doesn't feel too bad. Um, but my ribs and my shoulder and like my upper back, I just landed on that basically. So that took a big hit and is pretty sore, but it's healing up.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're getting there.
And you are back training.
Well, as much as I can do, so like physio stuff, and I started off just walking around the block. So I was sort of recording, walk around the block, trying to put my shoes on, because trying to even just put your shoes on with two
Mm,
arms in plus are not so good. So I'm just trying to do some work there because when you can do a little bit, I think it just helps. Your body's like reactivated, it's trying to heal and get stronger. So the more you sit still and don't do anything, just the worse and worse it gets. Because that just the week that I was in the hospital, I lost like 4 kilos and I couldn't stop that weight coming off either.
yeah.
So I'm still in a bit of a loop now of like trying to eat enough and train as well enough to trigger some sort of stimulus, but that's also tricky. So it's more about just moving and getting a bit of blood flowing and so on. I can use the ski erg not too bad now. So I had a few hits of that um, because it's also helping just to get some blood flowing into this without putting a lot of stress on it. Because I
Hmm.
can feel that it's obviously it's not right because it's broken. There's a plate, but the more I leave it alone, the sort of worse it's feeling. So I need to just start doing something with the arm and moving it a little bit without putting too much stress on it.
Yeah. I
See if I can.
remember, so it's Chris Duffin and the Kabuki Strength team
Hmm.
used to talk about forcing blood into the area
Mm.
by, training with resistance, training against, with weights and things to actually,
Yeah.
promote the growth and flushing out the bad stuff and getting all the good stuff in. Do you think that's kind of
Hmm.
a principle that you are working with? I know you
Yeah, for
said,
sure. I mean, yeah, just any sort of movement is going to drive blood into the area, isn't it? And then that fresh blood should hopefully be bringing nutrients and good stuff to try and help the injury recover. And there was also part of this loop that we did in the previous podcast when we were talking about sort of healing injuries in Huberman's podcast that he put out about healing faster was all about like clearing the. He was saying glymphatic system. I'm not sure if
hmm,
glymphatic and lymphatic are the
lymph.
same, but basically that's also what they're trying to do with me is like get all the swelling down and clear this lymphatic system. They keep saying,
Okay.
and I think that also is part of that. So like go for a walk. That helps, because you're moving some blood around in your body. But to me, also, if you can do a little bit more, if your heart rate can be a little bit higher, then that obviously also is going to clear it better, isn't it? And then plus you get the sort of exercise related chemical release instead of like just going for a walk, which is okay. But for me, that doesn't really change my sort of feeling of mood or anything. If
Yeah.
I actually do a bit more training, if it feels like training, that also helps from that point of view. So definitely, I think it's important. And it's the way I've tried to recover from all the previous stuff I did. Don't go crazy to start off with because I think you can also just do damage to start off with.
Hmm.
And there's a sort of period where you just don't feel right. And then I think there's a point where you're thinking, I don't really feel right, and you're all right just to chill for a bit. And it was a bit like that in the hospital. Like I didn't. People were sending me messages saying, "Oh, well, do you need anything?" And I was like, "I don't need anything. I'm good. I'm just sitting,
Just waiting.
taking this in. I'm just waiting," and was okay. And then once I got out, a bit slow to start off with because you're kind of adapting to what the situation is and what can I do and what can't I do. And that bit's not so frustrating. It's at the point where you think, okay, actually now I'm feeling kind of okay,
Hmm.
but I can't do anything. And then that's the point that you start to get a bit frustrated, and the training helps to sort of relax that feeling. I think relax that sort of frustrated emotion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've
So
just been doing bits and pieces.
that's cool. I want to close the loop on a couple of things that we've talked about. Glymphatic system. I
Mm.
very rudely Googled whilst you were talking, but I remember you mentioning this before. So the glymphatic system is a recently discovered macroscopic waste clearance system that
Yeah, okay,
utilizes a unique system of perivascular channels formed by astroglial cells to promote efficient elimination of soluble proteins and metabolites from the central nervous system.
okay. So this is probably then what Huberman is talking about, and just clearing waste product and so on from that system helps the recovery of the injury, I think. And also he mentioned about like don't cool it, don't ice the injuries because it turns all of the stuff in that lymphatic system into sludge, and then it
Yeah,
sits in there. So that's quite
yeah.
interesting.
Because there was a big shift, wasn't there, probably within the last 5 years about icing injuries and
Hmm.
icing for recovery. And I think that they had a complete turnaround. Like the person that said it was actually the best thing to do, then said, no, there's evidence to say that it's not the
Yeah.
best thing to do.
Well,
So
it turns out it's like a top-down approach, isn't it? So it basically is like an analgesic, so the pain level is reduced, but doesn't really do anything for
yeah.
helping the injury recover. So I haven't
Um,
been doing any icing really.
okay, good. And then the lymphatic system, because we glymphatic,
Hmm.
lymphatic. So the lymphatic system is part of the immune system. It keeps
Okay.
body fluid levels in balance and defends the body against infections. Lymphatic vessels, tissues, organs, and glands work together to drain a watery fluid called lymph from throughout the body. So similar, but slightly
Maybe
different.
both then. Maybe we're talking about
Yeah,
blood flow is just supporting clearance of both.
I think it's like when you take your rubbish out and you're recycling out. There's two different systems there.
I reckon you don't want any sludge in either of those systems, do you
No,
really? If one is dealing with your immune system, which is the one that's also supporting your body heal up, I guess,
yeah.
and the other one is just what was the other one? Nervous system.
What, the
What was the
glymphatic?
glymphatic one?
The
Yeah.
glymphatic and the lymphatic. Oh, I'm going to have to go back on Google now. Please bear
Well,
with
the
me.
lymphatic was clearing fluid out of the system, wasn't it?
Yeah, and
Glymphatic.
the glymphatic was microscopic waste clearance. So very
Okay. Yeah.
similar. Promote
Yeah. Maybe.
efficient elimination of soluble proteins and metabolites from the central nervous system. So I think one's from the central nervous system, that's, and
Mm.
one's from organs and tissues.
Mm.
That's, that's what Google says.
Good
Uh,
googling.
yeah, thanks. And then I wanted to Google this because I can never remember which way around it goes when you're talking about the Wim Hof stuff.
Mm.
Something that I use in training is your diaphragm controls or sends signals to your heart based on what it's doing. So
Mm.
there's one way around of if you do a longer inhale and a shorter exhale, it slows your heart rate down. You might
I
know
think it's
this
the
more
other
than me.
way. I
Other way
think it's
around,
the other one.
speeds your heart rate up. And if you do a short inhale and a longer exhale, it slows it down. So
Yeah.
there's some stuff like that in terms of just relaxing yourself, like the is it sympathetic sigh, parasympathetic sigh. God, gee, I'm terrible today.
Hmm.
You'd have thought I've done researched all this, and I knew it off by heart before because I taught it to Harrison and Chloe when they wanted to just like
Chill.
relax and calm down a bit, where you take a big inhale and then you top
I
it
think
up.
the relaxing, the like the heart rate coming down is all related to the exhale, isn't it? Because if you imagine if you're like breathing in and out fast, this is that Wim Hof breathing, isn't it? Which
Yeah,
is then triggering adrenaline release. And it's like hyperventilating, isn't it? Like the more you hyperventilate, the worse and worse the situation gets. You know, when you this doesn't chill you out. And so yeah, it's the long exhale, I think is the answer.
yeah,
And then the like long inhale, long exhale as well, also I think it's similar sort of thing.
yeah. I listened to a really interesting podcast about breath work and how like this guy was he just it controls everything. It's just
Yeah.
responsible for absolutely everything, and you don't
Yeah.
realize like how important breathing is. It's something I'd like to explore a bit more because I think it's really cool.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
When I did the ice bath for a year that I've been doing ice baths, and I went to CrossFit Great Yarmouth and worked with a guy. I say worked. He got chat to him for a bit and did the 2 degree ice bath in the big proper one, and he kind of talked to me about the breathing stuff. He was a
Mm.
breathwork coach, and that was really interesting. He did then get me to
Yeah.
dunk my head under the water, which I didn't want to do.
And that was just for show. Yeah, I used to
Yeah,
use it. I didn't realize it just seemed like it makes sense now. But when I and maybe I shouldn't have done this because maybe it resulted in this. But if I was nervous, like at a motocross race or enduro race or trying to do some new feature or something like that, I would just sit and just breathe and just like, it's all right, just calm down because you can see
mm,
everybody else riding, and then while you're watching everybody else, you're sort of getting a bit excited and thinking, yeah, I want to try, I want to try that. Also with fighting, when you're in this like super excited state, then you tend to either like gas out really quick or you're going
mm,
to do something erratic and make some sort of mistake. So I used to use that just, especially on the start line of a race, just calm down, deep breaths, slow exhale, and then to try and just sort of tune everybody else out.
hmm
It really works. I didn't realize it was, just it just seemed like the right thing to do. But obviously, there's a sort of physiological reaction to that,
yeah.
which backs it up.
That's one thing I very clearly remember from my MMA fight is just feeling like immediately gassed from that massive adrenaline dump.
Mm. Yeah.
like within a minute or so, I was just like, oh my God, this is the
Yeah. It's
wildest
wild, isn't
thing
it?
I've ever experienced in my life. Like the
Yeah.
colors were mega. I was like I was on
It's
crack. The
mad, isn't it?
colors were
Yeah.
mega vivid. There was some guy trying to
The
kick the crap
noise.
out of
Yeah.
me. Like I was like, what on earth goes on? My family was like down by the ring, and there was people
It's
cheering, and it
wild.
was just
Yeah.
like, this is mad, mad, mad. And yeah, I just like everything just, and I had nothing within a couple of minutes. I just had nothing,
Well, it
no
feels like
energy.
your arms are full of lead, doesn't it? It feels
Yeah,
like your arms and legs are like someone has filled your arms and legs with lead and you
that
can't
was
move it.
crazy.
And that was because I knew that was going to happen because I did those amateur ones. And I think we talked about it at the time. And that was why
Mm,
I did those because I did an amateur fight and it was only one 5 minute round. And the same thing happened to me. And I was fighting this guy and I should have easily beat this guy. I could not move.
mm,
I couldn't do anything. And I was like, well, this isn't going to work. If I go and do this like semi-pro fight like we did, then I'm going to be in trouble. So I did a bunch of those different fights and watched a guy, a friend of mine, come out to the ring in I think it was like a Cage Warriors fight we went to in London when we were training with Neil at the time. And the guy came out and he was absolutely wild because I think it was the first fight he'd had. He was like super hyped, like completely
mm.
insane. And in 10 seconds, completely gassed out of his mind. Literally couldn't move. And the other dude just dominated him.
Yeah,
Absolutely dominated.
yeah,
Wild, man. How
yeah.
your body can react is crazy.
And I think when I look back at that, I wish that I could have known and understood that a bit better. I probably got told it. I probably
Yeah, I told
probably
you. I can
yeah,
remember telling you about
yeah,
that, but I remember also telling you, and it's like, well, what are you going to do? Because it
mm,
was ballsy enough in the first place to go and do that, and then you were like training in your back garden, doing once a week something with a karate guy in like Yarmouth, and
yeah,
then once a week with Steve, and I was like, well, I'm not doing it like that. I'm going. I was like training twice a day, 6 days a
mm,
week, and so on. But yeah, I remember saying to you, look, I'm going to do these things because it's going to feel different. Like you're not going to know what to expect. But there was nothing you could do. Like where were you going to go and do that?
yeah,
Because you were working at the time, family, and so on. So you still did it. Just got on with it and did it.
yeah, yeah. I'm glad I did
It's a,
that. That was pretty crazy. I think that's one of the craziest things I've ever done.
this is a good segue to the main topic.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for that update on injury injury life. It's an interesting one to follow along with. I'm sure we'll have more injury updates over the next couple of episodes. We're episode 8, and wanted to talk a little bit about I don't know how to frame it. We've been talking about this. How do we get this across in a way that just doesn't go all over the place? But we started off with the notion of if you could have a phone call with yourself at 21 years old, like what advice or principles or lessons would you try and give to 21-year-old you? And it's quite hard when you sit down and think about it. I think it was worthwhile just having a bit of a think because I ended up with 5 more principles than things because 21-year-old me wouldn't have wanted to do the stuff that I'm trying to tell me to do because they were just a completely different person.
Do you know what's pretty interesting, maybe to frame it to start off with? It depends how much time I want to use on it. Can you describe 21-year-old you in a couple of lines, or like what was your focus, or what were your principles then compared to now? Probably there were no
Mm,
principles, but like I think that's interesting, isn't it? Because if I think about 21-year-old you is a different you again. Like there's like a 10-year-old you, a 16-year-old you, and I'm talking about you, not people in general, that I would say, okay, these are different people.
yeah,
And then 21-year-old you, which would have made me 23, was kind of on the cusp turning point of another version of you. And then I think you fast forward another 10 years, there's another one, and then there's you now.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, when I was 21, so living in Norwich. I think I was probably living in Norwich. Uh, had moved out when I was 18. And I think that there were some good things about how I approached life. Like I kind of lived day to day, week to week, rather than, I don't think I ever worried as much as I might have done over the past 5 years, maybe because I had a lot less responsibility. It was literally just me
Just you and
working.
the Nova.
Yeah, well, the Nova would have been and gone by then, I think, because yeah, I got rid of the B Rage Vauxhall Nova, my first car that Dad got for me, 50 quid
It's
scrapper.
50 quid, was it?
That was 50 quid he paid for that, which is,
No way.
it's worth, 50 quid then was what,
It's wild.
worth a bit more now. But I put
Wow.
I put an exhaust on
50
it, some
quid.
Wolf Race wheels, Sony stereo system in there. It passed the MOT, and yeah,
That's
kind of
crazy.
cut cut my teeth in the driving game in that. Used to drive it back from Bicester to Norwich to visit friends quite regularly. But yeah, then I sold it before I moved back. So that would have been a couple of years. So I would have been, I think I would have been 18 because I moved.
You sold it before you moved back. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I sold it and then
I
moved.
thought you went in it. That's a bit of a blurry memory of that time.
Mm,
Literally to me, that seemed like one day you were there, and the next day you were like, right, ciao. Okay, see you,
yeah,
mate. Because
yeah,
you went before I went, didn't you? But then it wasn't
not
much
long.
longer afterwards, maybe 6 months or a year.
Mm, yeah,
And I was also like,
that was a
okay,
rough time for mum. So sorry, mum. But that's what happens, isn't it? And
it's
these
like,
boys, they've
got to
got to get
fly the
out.
nest at some point, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I was living in a shared house, just paying rent. I think it was like 250 quid a month. Had my little room in that house. Went to work for Norwich Union at the time, Aviva, full time. And yeah, I think I was just going out and drinking on the weekends and just hangover on the week. Yeah, hangover for the weekend, then do it all again the next week. Eating pretty badly, not really doing.
Probably an understatement, though, dude.
Yeah, eating very badly, not making health a priority. So yeah, very different
But it's
state.
like completely different, though, no? Because like sport and so on, nothing. I mean,
No,
it's also fair, isn't it? This is just what you do at that. It's like you, and I think we'll come to it, won't we? With these principles and so on. It's like for me, you have to go through this loop and get to a point where you think, is this actually what I'm looking for? Is this really what I want?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and I think my probably my primary driver, if I was trying to do anything, was just try and get a girlfriend. I think, and I think that was probably what was trying to do, just trying to like, when you're like a 21-year-old guy, I was like
that's
after
interesting.
some female companionship. And I was never, I'm still not very good with women. Quite reserved, quite shy, quite awkward. I was always overweight as a kid. And then I've had really any self-confidence around it. Very kind of nervous, never really proactively go about something. And I think just with going out with friends, drinking, you kind of lose a few inhibitions and you just try and get a bit braver with that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's probably what I was trying to do. Just playing GameCube and Xbox with my spare time, listening to Late Night
Guitar, though, you're
Love.
into, aren't you? Guitar, you're
Yeah,
into.
yeah, music. Yeah, and used to go out with friends and go to like Rumble at the waterfront and drum and bass and all sorts of stuff. And I look back, I was like, right, that is completely like massively different to now. Um, and yeah, and I started thinking about, well, maybe what would I what would I have listened to? Probably nothing. But what would I want to say? Like, what do I know about myself now that I think would be quite useful having known back then, or just trying to save myself a lot of angst and a lot of worry and a lot of just, I suppose, stress maybe and anxiety. Because I mean, I still do. I overthink things like crazy, and I think that's something that I've been working on a lot with kind of courses on inner critic and just understanding your own state and managing state, like we talked about with the breathing and things like that. Just stuff
Mm.
that's going to help slow things down a bit and not get overwhelmed. So yeah, I wrote down some things which I can run through.
Hit me.
Cool. So my first one, and I suppose this is something I'm still working on, and I try and do this a bit more now, is to say yes to more stuff.
Mm.
Um, because I think it creates opportunities. And like we're talking about with quotes or Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I think when you have an opportunity to do something and you turn it down without really thinking, well, why did I turn that down and what was I hopefully set? protecting myself from. I suppose I was trying to
Mm,
protect myself from things that I was scared of or nervous about. I know, like you've probably tried to get me to do countless things over the years that would have pushed me physically and mentally.
mm,
I could have said yes to loads of stuff, and I didn't because I think I was just too scared of what might happen, or I was too lazy. And I even think about that now, like a guy, one of my friends from the gym, Craig, he asked me if I wanted to do a CrossFit competition coming up in April. And I was like, oh, and I just didn't go ahead and just say yes straight away. And then by the time I kind of thought about it and thought, well, it's going to be more money, and then there's travel, and then I got to get childcare, and do I want to do it? And am I fit enough? And all these kind of doubts that come in my mind. I went back to him the other day and I said, "Oh yeah, I've managed to sort out childcare. Did you get a partner for it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got somebody else to do it with me." And I was like, "Cool." So I could have done that thing.
yeah.
And there's a scene in Family Guy where Stewie Griffin's sitting on the sofa and he's watching like the news about some parade that was in town, and there was like a circus there and jets flying over and all this stuff was going on. And it was like it's the greatest day in the town's history. And he sat on the sofa and he just goes, "Ugh, should have gone to that thing." And that's what I think. I just think, oh, I should have just
Yeah.
done it. But it's so easy to look back and go, oh yeah, I should have done it. Because at the time, there's all these reasons seem perfectly valid as to why you don't do it.
I mean, there's a wave there, isn't it? Because I almost have the opposite. Now, because probably all of these things that I tried to get you to do, and we very briefly talked about it before when we were talking about this. So there's a focus topic for me. It's like I want to do all these things and see all these new experiences and try all this stuff, but does it actually get me where I want to be? So there's one topic of like, do you know where you want to go? Like this is one thing, and then there's the other thing for you, which I never really had that, where I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm not sure, I don't want to do it.
Mm,
I'm more thinking like, shit, have I got enough time to do all of these things? So I'm on like the other end.
mm,
Like I would be saying to myself, listen, you don't need to do everything. Like, does it make sense to you to do this? Is this the best use of your time? You're going to go and do X when you could be doing Y plus one.
mm,
Do you know what I mean? And which is the one which is going to move you in the right direction. So I can understand it, but I would have to come from the opposite direction for sure. And the overthinking thing is interesting because I had that as well. And I can't really remember at what point. I think I got so fed up of myself overthinking things because I would really do it with everything. I'm like, do I need to buy this book? Oh yeah, but the book is 6.99, but maybe I could
mm,
get it for 5.99. No,
mm.
no, no, no. As just an example. I mean, it's not a
Yeah,
very good
yeah.
one, but
No, it's a valid one.
but in the end, I think I thought about something for so long, and in the end, just bought it, and I was like, imagine the time slash opportunity cost of all of this thinking that you did, thinking about buying that thing. And the difference now, I think I just had enough time to think about the whole process. And I got afterwards like, and now you've just bought it anyway. So in the end, the answer you
Yeah,
got to was you're going to buy it anyway. So
yeah.
just buy it anyway. I mean, there's big things because I think we're quite lucky in that we're not like massively materially driven. No, like yeah, I could go and buy a new car or whatever on finance, but I just don't feel the need to do it. So I
Mm,
don't also have that compulsion or need for like material stuff that maybe would show a status or
yeah,
show that I was successful at work, whatever. I'm super lucky to not have that need to do those things. Um, so I haven't got to try and fight against the urge to go to the shop and drop 30 grand on a car or whatever it is. So that's good. But with these little things also, I was just like there's no consequence here. It's a bit like it's a reversible. I mean, it's not even a reversible decision. It's a reversible decision. You could refund it, but it has no impact in the end, does it? Most of
mm,
these things,
mm.
whether you spend 10 quid on that or not, yeah, okay, don't keep doing it because I'm obviously not a compulsive shopper. That would end up in a mess. But if you want it and you're just going to think about it in the end, buy it anyway.
Yeah,
Just buy it now. Save
yeah.
yourself the time.
Oh, 100%. And the amount of time and effort I spent on, trying to find a new car because my car was going to the scrappers and agonizing over it and this and that and looking and searching and this money, that money, countless hours spent looking for a car. And then I woke up one day, went to the local garage, and there was one there, and I bought it. I was like, oh, thank God
Yeah,
that's over. Thank God that's over.
yeah,
And it was a lot more money than I thought I wanted to spend. but it was like that's money's gone now, and there's a pain point, isn't there, that you
Yeah.
get to. I think this is very similar to my theory on like the gym. It's like the amount of pain I experience thinking about handing the money over is so much more than once I've handed the money over. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's done now. Like, that's done.
And you
It's
can
like a
think about
relief.
something else, can't you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah, the
relief.
amount of mental loops that you go through. No, yeah, and that's for me as well. I'm doing it right now with my bikes, like selling my bikes, and this whole process of selling the bikes and putting them online and thinking about how much they are, and then once you've done it, like I like deliberate, put it online. Literally, the minute I pressed go online, I got a bunch of emails. I sold it the same day.
Yeah.
For like the weeks that I'd be thinking, oh, do I want to send it? Do I not want
Mm,
to send it? And now it's gone. Like that load coming off, like it gets
mm,
out of that rehearsal loop in the back of
mm.
your mind, because there's this topic as well that pops up in a few things recently. As soon as you open a task, your brain wants to finish the task.
Yeah.
So some people are sort of proposing this is a good thing, though, that if you just start something, you'll want to keep coming back to it. But if you start a bunch of things, you've got them all on a rehearsal loop in the back of your mind and you don't do anything with
Yeah,
it.
I talk to people that I coach about this in terms of these systems that we have now, like Teams, Outlook, Instagram, WhatsApp. They are multi-billion pound companies with some of the smartest people on the planet that are vying for your attention. So you are screwed. If you
Yeah,
open
you're
up that
screwed,
thing,
mate.
you are
Yeah,
screwed.
yep, absolutely.
And if because they're so well designed to capture your attention, I have to kind of reframe people's understanding as these things are an invitation to look at the thing and respond. They're not a demand. You don't
Yep.
have to. You do not have to open that
Hmm.
software. You don't have to reply to that message straight away. We've just slowly creeping death found ourselves in an instant environment where we feel compelled that if we don't reply to a message for 30 minutes, we have to apologize that we're replying 30 minutes later. Where actually, I might send you a WhatsApp. That's all I can control is that I've sent you the WhatsApp. It's then
Yeah,
your choice when and where you reply to that. And yeah, but if you have Outlook open and you see the bunk, bunk, all these things, then ambiently in the back of your brain, you're thinking, I've got that thing to do now. That thing,
yeah,
I've got to go and do that thing. Whereas if you don't engage with it and you focus purely on what you're doing, you haven't got all that background stuff going on, and even the guilt of not replying, the stress of what they must need it, all this other stuff that chatters around in your brain.
yeah.
It's just crazy. But I
So
really
much
like
energy.
it is yeah, it is a waste. But I really like in terms of using your energy, having the guiding principle of is it going to get me closer to what I'm trying to do. And recently I've been listening. I listen to a lot of podcasts anyway, but there was a mental models one, and they were talking about Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. You're saying these guys must make countless decisions every day, really high pressure stuff. They're in the public eye, they're responsible for a lot of things, but they have like a guiding principle. So Elon Musk is this going to get us closer to Mars?
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
then
and if it doesn't, he's not
if it
doing it.
doesn't, he doesn't do
That's
it.
it. Not
And
apologetic for it, and
yeah,
he's going in the direction
so
he wants to go in.
so I think, and I'm not there yet with what I want to achieve, what I want to get out of life and focus on. And I think that's super important. If you can get that nailed down, then you can go, is this going to get me closer to what I want to do? Yes or no? If it's a no, you don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's super complex. And that would be one of the things that I would say if I called my 21-year-old self is like, just go away for a bit and just think about what you really want. Because I think a lot of the things that have happened where I think, oh, I didn't use my time very well there, it's just because I didn't really know what I want. It's like, oh, I just get dragged along into this or get dragged along into that.
Mm,
And
hmm.
having that focus and clarity, which I also still don't have. I think from a career point of view and the work I do and so on, much clearer that I can sort of keep in my lane because I'm interested in what I'm doing. But some other things like, what, like, where do I want to live? What does that look like? Do I, in the end, would I like a nice car? All of these things
Yeah,
can determine, it's a silly example, but can determine like what are you doing day to day, aren't they?
yeah,
So yeah, super interesting one. Just looping back just one sec to the email thing because it's super interesting. this sort of instant messaging topic, it feels like a creeping death now, but that popped up, I think, because it felt like someone was like you would reply to someone immediately, wouldn't you, if you asked them a question in person? And that was what they felt like, those applications, I think, like a WhatsApp and not so much Instagram because it was a bit later, but a WhatsApp and almost an email and so on. Because I used to have that with the WhatsApp, like immediately reply. It's like, oh, question, immediately reply. And the SMS as well was similar because it was like this
Mm.
exchange of the discussion on the telephone. And so it's taken, how long is it now since that's been around?
Oh man, it's
20
probably
years,
yeah,
probably.
more than you
20
think,
years,
probably.
imagine the behavior of that to get to the point. There's no wonder people struggle with it, with not being able to just leave it alone and not reply right now, because that's 20 years of you treating it like it's someone asking you the question in person.
Yeah,
When in reality it's not, and it's so easy now, isn't it, just to fire off questions? I think that's what people do. They're like firing off questions left and right. I'll get this off my plate. I'll get this
yeah.
off my plate.
Oh yeah,
And then in the end, you've got it all on your plate.
yeah,
And it's super
absolutely. And I do work around coaching people around contracting and all this kind of stuff where you actually have to understand and set boundaries for people in terms of this stuff, and it's up to you to create a consistent behavior that people can rely on and
frustrating.
trust in. So if you say to someone, I'm not gonna, like, I will reply to you when I have the time, and then you start replying immediately, and then all of a sudden you don't reply at all, it's very because it's very hard to judge, what that relationship's like. Or if you say I'm going to reply to you, but if you send me a message outside of work, I will reply to you when I'm next back in work, and then
Mm.
all of a sudden you start replying outside of work. That's like you're creating their behavior, because they're then going to go, well, I can just
Yeah.
message them any time of day and then I'll get a reply. And if they don't reply, something must be wrong and all this kind of stuff. So there's some really like super interesting things that you can do. I like to think the whole invite principle is really like quite works quite well for me. And I think about it in terms of a letter. Like you get a letter
Mm.
through the mail, you don't immediately like like
Sit down
crack
and
it
write
open,
back.
reply to it straight away. But sometimes that'll sit on the side for days and be like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll deal with that when I got time to deal with that letter.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the email. Just it never really worked the same way.
I mean, I'm not sure
Um,
if we want to get down this rabbit hole right now, but there's some really cool stuff in that Cal Newport deep workbook.
yeah,
Did you get to the end of that?
I
Did you
did
finish it?
finish it. Yeah.
Okay. There's some cool stuff in there about email, where it's basically
Hmm.
saying like, if the person hasn't made it easy for you to reply, don't bother.
Yes, I
Don't
was
bother
going to
to
get into that.
reply.
Yeah, that's
That's
that's condition.
amazing.
That's contracting and conditioning. Yeah, brings me on nicely to my next one, one which I think has just been another one of those lessons that I didn't learn all of a sudden, but once you start to figure it out, you can see all the benefits. And it's about communicating really clearly about what you want and what you need with the right people, number one, but more so the important people in your life. And I feel like that's one for me because, like you were saying, you kind of get swept up along with stuff and just kind of go with the flow of things and maybe not had enough time to think, do I really want to be doing this? Is this going to, push me in the right direction? Am I just saying yes to these things because I feel like that's going to get me the easy life, or that's what that person wants and I want them to be happy and sacrifice what I want and what I need? Whereas communicating really clearly with the people about this is what I want, this is how I feel, this is what I need. Can we work on this? That's just something that I think generally lots of people could put a bit more energy into. And the more I think about the relationships I have at the moment, when I start to feel things go a bit flat, it's because of that. It's because I'm not putting effort into communicating really clearly with that other person, what's going on, what do I want, why is this happening, what do I want to be doing? And even not from a point of view trying to get solutions and solve things, but just to help that other person understand, and to help me understand why I feel a certain way, and what I want. I think there's tons of power in talking things through. There's a whole load of power in just writing things down, but also actually when you start to vocalize things, you then can question yourself around, well, do I really mean that? Like I've said that, but now I've said it out loud. That doesn't feel right. That's not what I meant.
Hmm.
That's not what I want.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think communicating with people really clearly and proactively is super important. Save a lot of time, a lot of a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of arguments that could have been shut down before they even appeared, a lot of regret, resent, all those kind of stuff comes flooding out of that.
Yeah, I think you can be on a loop there, can't you, with that one? Because that's also a bit like this, I mean, loop, rehearsal loop in your mind where you're thinking about what are they going to say if I say this, and in the end, you might as well just say it, mightn't you?
Mm,
Because like you're going to need to say it at some point, and if you don't, basically that's going to boil over within you at some point and make it worse. So that's also a good one to say. And the the writing connects to the speaking as well, doesn't it? Because if you can write it down, then normally you can understand your thoughts more clearly written down. And then if you still feel the need to say it once you've written it down, probably you need to say it, but it should
mm,
be pretty clear at that point. Yes, it's a super interesting one. I think also interesting is this being swept along topic must happen a lot to people because until you can make yourself the space to even think about it, and any of these things like we talked about, like what do I want? That's a huge topic to
mm,
think about. It's like, what do I want? I don't know what I want. I want to be
yeah,
happy. What does that mean? You know what I mean? Like people don't have time, do they? I think that's one of the things that I realized like when I was working, I always work a lot, but you don't realize how much time that takes out of working out what else do you want to do. No, they're not little questions, are they? Where do I
no,
want to be? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be doing this with? What's important? This is big stuff that it takes a
yeah.
long time to work through, doesn't it?
And like I say, you have to create the space to be able to do it. And off of the what do I want question, there was a really good blog post, and I can't remember the guy's name. I'll stick a link in the description below when I find it. But it was what do I want to want rather than
Mm,
what do I want? It's like, well, yeah, I might want that, but what do I actually
yeah,
want to want?
yeah,
Can it be another one on top of that? Yeah, it's super interesting stuff. I absolutely understand the whole thing about, well, if I say this, then they'll say that, and that's the whole overthinking, catastrophizing mentality, isn't it? What if they
yeah.
don't like what I say, and then I'll have to, and then you have the argument so many times in your head, or the discussion so many times in your head, that you might as well have just gone ahead and done it and seen what
Mm,
happens. And there's also the reverse of that is where you're communicating something to somebody, and this is what comes out with being really consistent and being able to trust in that communication, is that I might say something to you and you will take some different inference. Like, well, you said that, but that clearly means that this, and that. It's like the whole online argument. If I say I like strawberry ice cream, people will go, well, why don't you like chocolate ice cream? It's like, no, I'm not saying I don't like chocolate ice cream. What I'm saying is I like
mm.
strawberry ice cream. Like my words literally are what I'm trying to say. There's no hidden meaning behind that. And I think there's a lot of distrust around, people trying to read too much into it or read between the lines, or they said this, but they actually mean that. And that happens all over the place. So I think nailing the
Where did
communication down.
Yeah, it's tricky though, isn't it, as well, because you need someone who's also responsive on the other side, that
Mm,
they're also communicating in a straightforward way, because there's a reason that people take this inference from things, isn't it? It's because in the past they've been communicated in such a way where someone has said something and actually they didn't mean that.
yeah.
I'm not very good at all these terms, but if it's this passive aggressive thing or
Mm,
lighting, whatever the fashionable one is now, when they're
mm,
saying, "Oh yeah, you can go," with the inference on the you can go. It's
yeah.
like, but and in the background is, but if you do, I'm not going to be happy about
Yeah.
it. It's like just say you're not happy about it. Just say what it is you'd rather do together with me, and maybe we can work that out another day.
Mm,
This
mm,
sort of lived experience for some people, I think, drives them towards that, isn't it? So you're also pretty lucky if you end up in a combination of people who can both see the value in communicating clearly. And it's also super difficult for some people, isn't it? Because they're also going through this loop in their head, aren't they? Like in both directions, you're going through the loop in your head. What's he going to say? What's going to happen
mm,
here? I don't know. What
mm,
am I going to do? And they're also doing the same thing, aren't they, as well?
mm.
Like, oh, I don't want to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
And in the end, you can end up, you basically like hurt your own feelings because you're afraid of hurting somebody else's, and you don't even know if they're going to be hurt by it. I mean, this is really crazy. But yeah, it's a
Yeah.
really, really good point.
So an example I used recently in some coaching was when somebody comes to you and they start maybe complaining or moaning and being negative about something. And however you want to take that, you can take it as this person's really negative. I need to fix their problem. They're passing this on to me. I need to do something about it. Or, I wish they'd come to me with solutions, but all this kind of thing. Well, actually, if somebody, and this is the benefit of having experience at work and experience with children as well, is that if somebody comes to me and they start being negative or making a complaint about something that's happening, then I have to decide how am I going to communicate and understand what they want from me. So if they're coming to me and they start complaining, I'll say, okay, how do you want me to respond? Do you want me to just to listen? Do you want me to offer you my thoughts on it? Or do you want some help fixing it? And even in just that little interaction, you take a lot of pressure off yourself because then you know what they want from you and you're really trying to understand that before you even get into it. So yeah, there's tons of stuff like there's little hints and tips about communicating, but people think that it should be easy and they think that it should be
Mm,
obvious, but it's really not. And like I was saying, I have to put energy and effort into that because you can't just assume what people want from you and what and you can't just expect things from other people. Well, you should know. How should I know? Did you tell me?
yeah,
It's like,
because you transmitted it by magic
yeah,
into my
but
brain.
it's just really easy to just bypass all that work just to have a decent conversation and a decent communication with somebody. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
what
it
I mean.
needs to work from both. It's quite interesting that one. We said, what do you want from me, basically? Because Todd, we had this in the shop years and years ago. So this is how far ahead of the curve he is in terms of
Mm,
communication. So we obviously we used to have customers, and some would be happy, some would not be happy, and we had a guy one time started to complain something had broken down, and so we think, well, what do we do? So I think he said like, okay, what do you want? And the guy didn't know.
yeah,
He had no idea. He was just like venting because I think what he wasn't expecting was someone to say, yeah, okay, then let's sort it out. I think he was almost expecting some
push back.
pushback, like we're not doing anything, we're not going to help you, and I think Todd was like, well, okay, what should we do? And the guy was like, when he could have, then he had the shot, no, to say, oh, I want a refund, give me my
Mm,
money back, I'll have a free service, can I have a new helmet,
mm,
whatever it was. Yeah, so quite interesting. That really stuck with me. I mean, that was years ago now, 20 plus years ago. Same sort of thing because I used to have the same topic at work with one of my sort of superior engineers, and he used to say like, "Don't come with problems, come with solutions," which also stuck with me. So I always make a point to try and do that. Now, like if I go to someone, I won't just go with a complaint because this doesn't really get anywhere.
yeah.
But I hadn't really thought about the flip side of that. If someone does come with nothing but complaints, then okay, it almost feels a bit awkward, doesn't it? Like you should know how to respond based on whatever their input is.
Mm,
So to ask is quite an interesting concept. Which is okay. You want me to just listen? I mean, in personal relationship, I've done it before. Try and think about it, but in a professional,
yeah.
worth a try.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll have conversations with Becky, and I'll tell her something, but she's very pragmatic. She's quite solutions focused, which I think is like something
Mm,
that I like about her. So she'll start offering me advice and have you tried this? Have you done this? What about this? Could you do that? And I'm like, oh no, I didn't need advice. I wasn't looking for you to fix it. I just wanted to tell you about it. She's like, oh, okay, cool. But yeah, so just have those things because she's of the same. It's like, oh, there's a problem, and
need
I
to
want
fix
to
it.
fix
Yeah,
it. I want to fix the
yeah.
problem. It's quite interesting
It's
dynamic.
quite interesting that she comes at it from that point of view because like the general behavior is normally the other way, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like just to sympathize for women is generally sort of just to sympathize. Oh,
Hmm.
you okay?
Mm.
And for men, the only reason you go to men with a problem is because you want help and a solution, isn't it? This is
Yeah.
that's super
Fix my
interesting.
problem with me, bro.
As soon as you sit down with the guy and say, "Yeah, I got this, that, and the other," what you're expecting is, "Yeah, okay, help me work it out,"
Yeah.
which is pretty interesting.
So my next one was I'm going to go for this one. So nothing good happens after 11 o'clock. Go home. That's
Yeah.
when I think back about every night out, everything where I've like hung around, drinking more or, just like till the night just whittles away down to nothing. There's a point in time where nothing good happens. And it's normally around 11 o'clock when when your human shuts down in your brain and your chimp comes out as well. That's why we don't try and make any decisions after 11 o'clock at night. And I think about all the time, money that I've wasted on nights out, which have just fizzled away when they started out great. And I'm hoping for that to last and for that to
Yeah,
go on and
continue.
to
Yeah.
continue. And then the more people start dropping out, I'm like, no, stay out, because I'm having a good time. And then it just turns out into nothing. And then I'm like trudging home at 3 o'clock in the morning with a chili kebab and a
Yeah,
wasted
yeah,
day the next day. So yeah, that was one I think I could probably saved a lot of time and effort, money, and been a lot more productive for many, many weekends of my youth if I'd have just gone home at 11 o'clock.
yeah. I think that one's a killer for me as well, especially now where I just value too much like the next day and what and however you're planning to spend that next day, like that's going to be a write-off. If it's a midnight job, maybe not 11 o'clock, but midnight or definitely like a 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Yeah, that was a killer for me. But for me, that one I worked out phew, long time ago. I
Mm,
think in university I worked out, and by it's quite funny because a lot of these things I'm almost like the complete opposite, where I should have gone for a few more nights because at
mm,
university I just didn't go at all because I was so focused on like let's get this thing done, let's get I wanted to get a first and so on, which I did, but I also sacrificed a lot of things which I would have probably gained from had I been even out at all.
yeah,
So it's like we're on these sort of extremes of the spectrum. You're out until 3. I didn't even go out. Do you know what I mean? At university,
yeah.
so it's quite interesting. But I could definitely agree with that. Yeah, not much is going on after that.
And some of these to me feel like a little bit of a flowchart decision making process. Like, because I started off with say yes to more stuff, which could
Mm.
be the reverse of go home at 11 o'clock. Because if someone somebody had
Yeah,
said, oh, why don't you stay out, come to this house party, it's like, okay, say yes to more stuff. Is this past 11 o'clock? Yes. Okay, go home then. Like, is it past
yeah.
11 o'clock? No. Say yes to it.
I mean, there's a lot of thinking involved at the time, and then there's a lot of what it feels like at the time is very different to what it feels like now, isn't it, as well? This is the other thing. Because, like, in hindsight, for something like that, if you could use all of those like next days all together, you could do something for sure, build
Mm,
something, whatever you want to create. In the moment, that doesn't feel like you're using it for that, does it? So
mm,
it's I think that's the really complicated thing about this is like when you're living through it, it feels completely different to when you're looking back at it, doesn't it?
mm,
So maybe the advice is like the time is going to carry on whether you do what you want or not, isn't it? But it
mm,
still comes back to like that night out and staying out past 11 o'clock and that writing off the next day. Does that get you closer to what you want or not? And probably you just didn't know what you wanted, did you? Because imagine
oh,
if you'd had a goal.
yeah.
If you'd had a goal at that time and that goal was whatever it was, I need to use Sunday to work on my podcast or practice whatever is my questions or prepare for
Mm,
something. And it will be clear. So I think really huge amount of it comes back to that, doesn't it? It's like, can you work out what you want? That would be a super interesting thing to get into because, like you mentioned, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and these guys, at some point super early, they must have worked out like, and even if it's like Musk, it's more from his point of view. It's like, I want to change the world. I think it was probably the first thoughts he was having, wasn't it? It probably wasn't, I want to make X or whatever it was, PayPal was called before. Um, and then he's just like laser focused on that thing, isn't it? So to have that, I guess also a blessing and a curse, isn't it? Because you're either like going straight down the line towards that, but also
yeah.
at the expense of all these other things around, like you say with your sort of flow chart
Yeah.
decision tree. So it's really driven by that, isn't it? Because if you had that clear, and I think you've got it more clear now for like some things, haven't you? Like you won't go out on an evening now because in the morning you'll get up and go to CrossFit because that's the thing you enjoy and that
Yeah.
you see your friends and so on there. Then that's like one clear thing, isn't it? But it's to try and put that into like one big picture.
Yeah. I think I have behaviors that I like and I have habits and routines that I want to stick to, but overarching
Mm,
focused goal, no. I think if I sat down and really thought about it, then I'd probably be able to nail something down. And this all comes back to like writing things down and setting goals. Is that we were kind of talking about, what do we want to do with the YouTube channel? What do we want to do with the podcast? Like, where's that going? And that helps you kind of get into it or not. I
mm,
think what I've done is I've kind of masked over, well, this is my hobby. And then it kind of reduces the impact of if it's successful or not, whatever that success might be. So I think, well, yes, I want to be fit and healthy and continue to train for life. That's like a behavior and a habit and an overall goal, but not a really focused one. Because what does that actually mean specifically? Is it that I want to qualify for, CrossFit Games Masters when I'm 45? Is it that I want to do 6 competitions a year? Whatever that might be, there's that next level of detail that helps you focus in and can really strengthen your decision making. So if I
mm,
think, well, I just want to be able to train for the rest of my life, then yeah, it doesn't matter if I
yeah.
eat eat a load of ice cream and have a hangover for a day, because the goal is stretched out over such a long period of time that doesn't make such a big impact. However, if it's that in 2 weeks' time I want to be ready to do a competition and I need to be strong, then I'm not going to be going out. I'm not going to be like eating the ice cream. I'm going to be focused. So yeah, I've definitely not nailed down a real clear, focused, guiding goal. But I think there's super helpful to have, really helpful. I can see the benefit of it. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, and it's also not one thing, is it? Because if
Yeah,
you think about life, it's comprised of a bunch of different, if you want to call it criteria or elements, isn't it? Like there's your family, there's your relationships, there's your career, there's your physical health, there's your mental health. So I mean, so it's like there would be a goal for each one of those, which is hopefully just keep them in such a way that you can live the life that you want to be living. Good. That's like the sort of never-ending, infinite end of the line topic. But to get there at some point, and I think this is where the time topic comes in, is that in order to keep on track, then it's like having these little individual goals, isn't it? Like, so in
mm,
2 weeks' time, I've got a CrossFit competition. That's going to keep me focused for those 2 weeks. What am I going to do for the 2 weeks after that? Or even if it's tricky thing about those is like you could have the goal of like, okay, I just want to train 6 days a week. But if you're only accountable to yourself, depends how strong your own like conviction is, doesn't it? Like how much does it mean to you if you don't
yeah,
keep your own promise?
yeah.
Does that keep you on track or not?
And to what degree does training look like? Like if I want to train 6 days a week, okay, it's 5 sit-ups training. Is going for a walk training. You have to kind of lay that stuff out because you can really fib to yourself, can't you? You can really like pull the wool over your own eyes with some stuff. I remember kind of thinking about the 75 hard about following a diet. I was like, well, yeah,
Mm.
I'm just trying to be like low sugar, so that's a diet. And
Yeah, I mean, it gives you your way out, doesn't it?
yeah,
It's a bit like what we were talking about with like saying that the podcast is a hobby. It gives you that out, doesn't it? It's like, well, it's
hmm
okay. I didn't, and it means that you didn't fail, doesn't it?
yeah,
Because the goal wasn't there.
yeah,
So I was reading similar
yeah,
stuff about this recently. A super interesting topic, isn't it?
yeah.
But like once it's clear and focused, then there's like it's not infinite, is it? But there's a hugely greater chance of succeeding if you can stay on the right track and do the
Mm.
right things. So
It's I was going to say
go on.
studies have shown that if you write down a goal and share that goal with somebody else, so tell them about it, you are 30% more likely to achieve it.
Mhm. I mean, you also have to care about what that is, don't you? I think that's the other thing, because some of these things, like when you called your 21-year-old self, and I think principles is a different thing to just telling them something. Is it like if you call your 21-year-old self, and now we follow business and so on, little bits and pieces of it. At the time, if you'd have called your 21-year-old self and said, okay, put some money in this business, that business, wouldn't listen, would they? Because they wouldn't care.
Mm.
They wouldn't be any interest there at all with it because the interest would be about, I just want to go out tomorrow or I want to play my guitar, whatever, because that's what you feel like you're interested in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of combining these things, isn't it, with do I actually want to do that? Does that interest me at all? Because there's loads of things that we could have done, should have
Mm.
done. When you look back now and think, but I just wouldn't have done those things at
Yeah.
all. So, in some ways, for me, I'm quite lucky that I worked out if I'm not interested in this thing, I'm just not going to do it. But when I am interested, I'm going to go like 100%. And I think one of the things that I would have said to myself if I called myself was like, that's all right. It's all right to be like that. Like, not everybody's like that,
Mm.
but it's okay to be like that. No, you can just go all in on that thing and get obsessed about it. And I think you do it with some stuff as well, don't you? Like, once we get into it, we're into it and like we're gonna do the maximum on the thing. But it felt like quite an alien thing because I'm like looking around and thinking, well, nobody else is obsessed by this stuff
Yeah.
like I am. Nobody else is doing this in the same way. And to
Hmm.
just say to myself, yeah, that's all right. Like,
Hmm.
maybe it feels a bit weird to everybody else, but if that's how you need to do the stuff to make progress and feel all right,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah. And some of this stuff that I'm saying, I'm, making a phone call back 20 years, but some of the stuff I know I should be doing it now. And
Well, yeah,
maybe,
that's
I mean, I'm
exactly
not
it. I
doing
think,
it.
isn't
Like
yeah,
one
and
of the
why?
ones I wrote down, which is quite a quick one to cover off, so I'll blast it out now, is train legs more.
Hmm.
Like I could
Also,
train legs more.
yeah,
That one you don't need to explain. Um,
no,
and I think I've got the benefit of because I have children. So Harrison's 12, Chloe's 10. The stuff I'm thinking about now, like Harrison's interested in exercise, kind of comes in and out, and I never really force them. I never force them apart from going for a walk to come and train with me. I'll just invite them in, and if they want to train, they want to train. And like kind of Harrison kind of gets really interested in it, and then comes in and out, in and out. And I was talking to him about like, what do you want? And he's like, I want big arms. I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, you should train legs. I was like, try just train legs. Train legs, you'll get super strong. You're like boys seem to like having big arms. I think, but everybody can be impressed by a set of good strong legs and being able to squat. And like nobody's too precious about what you bicep curl, but there's some respect to be had from what you can squat and what you can deadlift. So trying to get
well, it's a
him
solid
training legs.
foundation as well for everything else, isn't it? I think you
Yeah.
don't really realize at the time, do you? Because you only see, you just see the big arms and you think, oh, that guy's strong. That's like the universal indicator of is that guy strong or not, is it? But probably like a guy with big arms and small legs compared to a guy with big legs who's managed to just get arms on the way. I mean,
Mm.
like when the strongest I ever was, I don't think I ever did any like bicep curl or anything.
Yeah.
All I was doing was like squatting and deadlifting. But it's
Yeah.
that sort of what do they call it? Like radiating effect across your whole body of moving just heavy stuff around. It's like why
Mm.
guys who work on farms and stuff like that, they're just monsters, aren't they? They're just training and lifting heavy stuff all day long. They're not doing bicep curls in the
Quite
garage,
arm
are they? Just
strength.
heaving bales around. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
So yeah, that was a quick one. And then I've got. I think I kind of covered off one already, but one of them is around impress yourself, not other people. Um, and I just think I probably did quite a lot of things because I thought that it would get people to like me, or I'd go along with stuff because I thought, I want to be included, or I want to be part of whatever's going on, or whatever it might be. And I think well, actually I'd probably rather have worked on doing something that I was impressed by myself for doing, like I was proud of myself for doing, rather than putting so much stock in maybe trying to impress other people who generally they don't care, do they? Other people don't really care what you got going on, what you're doing. But being able to be proud of yourself and impress yourself by the things that you do and push yourself to do, I think there's a lot more growth and satisfaction in doing that. I don't really know how that translates out at the minute, but I know when I do something which I'm nervous about, or that I feel like my inner critic's going wild and it's telling me, oh, you can't do this, you're going to mess this up, and then I actually push through that and do it. I'm like, yeah, that was pretty cool. That's satisfying. I'm happy with how that went, and that all layers up and cements one on top of the other to go, yeah, you are capable. You can do this. You thought that was hard, but you've done this before, and that all adds to like confidence and believing in myself. So yeah, impress yourself and not other people.
But there was some sort of switch as well, because at some point you were concerned about impressing other people.
Yeah.
And now you're thinking, well, actually, no, it's more because they also, no one can take that away from you, can they, as well? If you impress yourself, like only you can take that away from yourself, can't you?
Mm,
And you can't control what other people think. So it's also quite an interesting frame. Like if you can actually impress yourself, which is also, yeah, probably if I was calling myself, that would be one of the things I would say is not to be impressed with myself, but at least take a moment to think about, oh yeah, that was good. I mean, this is quite a common one, isn't it? It's like just take a moment to reflect on, okay, yeah, you did well at that, not just like jump straight on to the
next.
next thing. No, just like next. But that's the nature of humanity, isn't it? Is always to try and keep improving, get onto the next thing, and keep moving
Hmm.
forwards. And then otherwise, I think you're also at the risk of like, do you just become complacent, isn't it? So it's like there's a fine balance there between just sort of
Yeah.
resting on your laurels. And I always think that about the races and so on I've done in the past. So would be another thing. A bit like the say yes to more things. It's like say yes to bigger things. So not lots of things, but bigger things. So like
Mm,
bigger, challenging things. Because I feel the best when I'm doing something that is like on the limit of like, do I think I can do this or not?
mm,
But I have enough trust in myself that I'll do the work and try and make the thing happen, and in the end, hopefully, I'll achieve it. When I think back to the things that sort of, they're like the biggest memories, not necessarily stories, but things that I think, oh yeah, cool, that was really cool. They're like those biggest, hardest things. And I would say like just try and find at least one of those a year or something that's really to you a big impressive goal to yourself, or something that you've been really thinking about doing, because it feels like I haven't done that for a little while. Really did it a lot in Spain when I was there, and going to do these international races and Romaniacs and so on, these sort of big famous enduro races, which is a lot of, it's really expensive, lots of time. You have to really focus on those things, but they're the things I think about now, and like the things that I would tell someone, to sort of give an example of like, oh yeah, I've done X or Y, with respect to motorcycle, maybe would be these things, these sort
hmm.
of big audacious goals.
Yeah.
But you have to execute on there then, don't you? That's the other problem. It's like a focus topic.
Mm,
Can you focus enough to get the thing done? Because it's all well and good, isn't it? Saying, I'm done it, or you can also pay the entry fee and then not do the thing.
yeah.
Because that's a phenomenon, isn't it? Is where
Mm,
like talking about it feels as good as doing it.
yeah. Yeah. Definitely. There's yeah, you get that little buzz from saying you're going to do a thing,
Yeah,
and
and
it's
then don't
almost
actually do
it's
the thing.
almost as good as the buzz you get from doing the thing, but you don't now
Yeah.
need that because you've already had your little buzz and then your motivation's gone. Yeah. Yeah, I get that one. What else is on my list? I had I had thinking more before acting slash reacting. I
Mm,
think in certain situations I could be quite reactive, and I've learned recently that it's absolutely okay to not react and to give myself a little bit of time to think how do I want to react to this, rather than give in to that initial chimp strong reaction to just fight or flight or whatever it might be, and to just spend a little bit of time thinking, well, actually, yeah, do I need to do anything? That's always one. Do I need to act or react at all to what's happening? What happens if I do nothing? And then, yeah, thinking back to what you were saying about, is this going to get me closer to or further away from what I need to do by acting or reacting in a certain way? And that can come into like tiny little decisions all throughout the day, like and controlling how I feel about things. So, example being, okay, stub my toe. How do you react to stubbing your toe? Well, it's a lot of pain. So you probably probably react, your body reacts to that, but then you get to decide whether that ruins your day or not, and whether you complain to people about it, and whether you like, hate the wall that you just kicked, or throw the chair across the room, or whatever that might be. And I think having done a decent amount of work on self-development and kind of mindset and things like that, is like almost this little gap that you need to create yourself, a little buffer, that I think Chris Williamson talks about it being the mindfulness gap. I think he got that from somewhere else, where you just give yourself just that little bit of space to go, okay, how do I want to how do I want to turn up for to this situation, like,
Mm.
and what do I want from it before then jumping in, and that comes back to loads of stuff I've talked about. So about saying yes to things, going home at 11, communicating really clearly. What was the other one I talked about? Training legs. Yeah, but
Don't
yeah,
overthink.
yeah, yeah, overthinking. So yeah, just it's okay to take your time. It's okay to really think about how do I want to.
It's almost better, isn't it, to take your time? But I think what's not a detail is how long it takes. It depending on your personality or what you've seen. Because I think there were sorts of behaviors we saw when we were a kid also drive towards this really like reaction, yeah, reactionary personality or response to something, isn't it?
Mhm.
And because I think like mum and dad were both super reactive when they to things. Like something would happen, it's like everything's gone off the chart immediately. So it took me because I was really conscious of that, but quite early because my reaction was like really, really strong to
Mm.
things, like over the top strong. But because you've seen people around, and you sort of see, okay, they've had this reaction, but that doesn't actually result in something afterwards. It also feels okay for you to have that reaction, thinking that other people understand that there's
Yeah,
no reaction afterwards.
yeah.
But actually, other people don't understand that, do they? Because they see a reaction, and normally that reaction leads to something else. So you don't really realize at the time, like, okay, what's how is this processed by somebody else? So I had that realization long time ago, but I think it took me like years to be able to get to the point where I could like have something happen, and I have it now, and I catch myself thinking, God, that's nice that I now. Like the other day, I think I dropped like a tray of eggs on the floor, and I think if I went back, I mean, it'd be a long time now, 20 years maybe, I'd have probably dropped the eggs on the floor, then kicked the eggs across the floor, jumped up and down on the eggs. Probably completely insane for the eggs. But I dropped the eggs on the floor and I just looked at the eggs and was like, okay, I got to clean that up now.
Mm.
Which made me feel like a small thing for some people, but to be able to sort of control those sorts of things is really quite nice. That I know that like it's almost a little bit in reverse for me again. Like I would like to maybe be just like a little bit more reactive because you can get so in the back seat with some things that you don't
You can go
respond at
numb.
all. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think yeah, you go through this wave of like, okay, to sort of avoid reacting to any of this, I basically need to not react to anything at all,
Mm.
and then start to come back out of there and think, okay, no, actually, like a quicker response would
Mm.
be good here. But you also have to somehow trust your instinct as well, don't you? Like when the situation requires it, whatever that might be, emergency or whatever, that you're not just going to stand there and think, like you will react when the time is right, but when you practice a lot I think meditation and so on really helps a lot with that sort of thing. That you can get to the point where it's like, okay, do I need to make any sort of reaction to this thing? No, not really. But also catch myself at times, especially this is one when you're tired, it's really difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you sort of run out of a bit of decision making willpower,
Mm.
you can really get stuck there. Yeah, that's
That's the
super.
key bit, isn't it? When you talk about the reaction after the reaction is the decisions that you make. So, like you said, well, if you've dropped, if you've dropped the eggs on the floor, then the eggs are on the floor and they're dropped. If it's a hard
Yeah,
floor, okay, nothing's ruined.
just
If
sort of
they're still
scoop it
in the
up.
box, that's fine. But actually, if you drop the eggs on your very expensive rug and now your rug is ruined and then you need to act quickly, there's all sorts of different circumstances. So,
Yeah,
like you said, around the emergency, I think, yeah, you'd react quicker, but you might make better decisions in that scenario
oh, for sure.
because
Yeah,
you've practiced going, okay, what's just happened? What do I need to do about it? Okay, where's that going to get me? Great. And then how am I going to feel about it afterwards? And, how am I going to carry that with me or not? I think there's just some benefit in seeing the decision making process in slower, non-emergency circumstances. But I think you're right. There's the whole nature and nurture thing as well. Like I know some people who, they fly off the handle in family situations at each other because that's how they have
yeah,
grown
yeah.
up. Like the smallest
That's
thing
all right.
leads to these
Yeah.
massive blow up arguments, and then that's how they communicate with each other, and then they move on. Whereas if that happened with us, we probably would not speak to each other for like weeks on end because it's so alien. Like because we're so
Mm.
like I'm just kind of quite level, which I think I don't experience. Whilst I don't experience the lows as much anymore, I definitely don't experience the highs and like
Mm,
enjoy things as much, which is why I quite like the gratitude journal because it keeps me coming back to. Even today, I was writing in it just some notes on the week, and I was like, I've written three-quarters of a page, and it was all stuff that was going wrong, stuff that I wasn't happy with, and then I had to
mm.
write in the end. I'm actually loads of stuff is going right still, and I'm really grateful for what I've got. Cool.
Well, we could go all over the map from those two as well.
We could. I think I'm out of my list now. We've got a few more minutes left. If I don't really, I don't know you added on, but was there anything extra that you'd add on for 21-year-old Matt? He's a tough cookie to crack, I think.
I think the interesting thing for me is that somehow I think I was such an extreme personality when I was younger, or at least in my mind, it feels like I was an extreme personality, that I had to already start doing a lot of things to get going in the right direction, or in a direction where I thought, okay, this is the sort of person that I would like to be. I was just lucky, I think, that I thought, well, I don't want to be this person who's like reacting in this way or doing these things or whatever it is. Um, So I think an interesting thing for me would be more like I would be calling myself and saying like, just trust what you think is right. Because I did, like I've done things that I thought were right. And like I generally just try and follow that principle. Like fundamentally, is what you're doing and right is a really broad definition, isn't it? But you think, does this hurt somebody else? Does this hurt somebody's feelings? Am I gonna, an upset is also a tricky one. But like don't do something that's going to harm other people, and just follow what you're interested in, and that's okay. And I think I would have probably just said like your sort of instinct is right, so like keep following your instinct. So connecting to that, so following my instinct, it's okay not to want what everyone else wants.
Good one.
I think I basically did this. And I think I could have done some things differently and so on. But yeah, it's okay not to want what everyone else wants, but take the time to understand what you want, which is what
Mm,
we've been talking about over and over
mm.
again. So I think this is super important and still working through that. Just because then that drives the decisions you make, like we talked about, and that might change. So what you think you want, and I say what you said, um, what what was it? What do you want to want? What do I want to want?
Yeah,
Yeah, so you have to like get to that point, don't you? Think, okay, what do I want? And then, but do I actually want that? And also, it's arguably even better if you don't want. Like, the more you don't want, the better it, isn't it? Because then you're going to be happy with what you've got.
yeah, it's true. But you might want
Um,
to be happy with what you've got, and that might be your want. That might be your desire. Do I want the thing, or
yeah,
do I want to just be happy with what I have?
I mean, a super interesting one for me is like I've in the back of my mind, I'm like, I really like Lamborghinis. Yeah. So in some ways, I want a Lamborghini, but I know that's also going to be a nightmare. Because then I've got to run it and insure it and put tires on it, and I'll probably crash it into a tree.
Mm,
Uh, so much as I want one, actually, I don't really want one. I don't want the hassle of living with the thing.
hmm.
Um, Other ones, not everyone is like you. I think this I didn't really realize, and it really stopped me understanding why people behave like they do. Because if I was like so in my own head, I was thinking, well, like, okay, if I'm doing it like this, then why aren't you doing that like that? And if we go back 20 years, this for sure was something that I realized maybe 6 or 7 years later, but would have probably helped a lot with just dealing with people and managing relationships and friends and so on. But yeah, not everybody is like you.
That reminds me of
Um,
the could versus should. Because when you
mm,
were saying that, it's like, well, you would have expected people to have reacted in a certain way because that's how you
mhm,
acted, and they didn't. And did that then cause you frustration and annoyance
mm,
because they didn't do the thing that you would have done in that situation?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it really hit home at one point. And it was in a sort of work environment because actually the work environment, there were lots of very similar people. Because in engineering, actually the personalities are relatively similar. There's obviously a spread, but some are quite similar. But there was like one guy in particular who was just so different to everybody else. And I was like, Ah, okay. So not everybody's. I mean, it sounds really weird to say it now. That like not everybody is the same. Well, of course, not everybody is the same. But like when you've been like in motorcycle and go to university do engineering, where you're with a bunch of engineers, and you go into an engineering office and everybody's an engineer. Now, so all of the process is basically the same. To have this guy who was an engineer, but he was just such a on like the opposite end of the spectrum, basically in terms of like sort of react wasn't really a reactive guy, but he was a very feeling guy. You know? And generally, engineers aren't feeling; they're about data, not feelings. And this
Mm,
guy was just about feelings. I was like, but how can this be? I was like, yeah, because not everybody is like you. So what's his motivation? Yeah, you know what your motivation is, but do you understand what his motivation is and why he's doing these things this way?
mm,
That would have been a really useful insight.
mm.
Just to start to try and understand people or understand other people and think about their perspective. From that one, that I would say to myself, you're doing the things that you enjoy. You just don't realize that you enjoy them.
Hmm.
I think I still have this problem now. It's like I'm training, like I train every day. And it wasn't really until recently that I thought, well, yeah, you're doing it because actually you really like to be there and train. So this is one of the things that you need in structure of your like day-to-day life. It just makes you feel good. But I'd never really thought about like, do I enjoy this or not? Like, despite like going there every day, and like I thought I enjoyed the progression and so on, but actually I haven't really made any progress in the gym for a long,
Mm,
long time. So
mm.
I just enjoy the process of going and the training and the trying and the effort and so on. Um, and from that to realize that like doing things that are hard is like a meditation
Yeah,
for me. And
yeah.
this I also didn't really realize until recently.
And I also think that it's like the absence of pain as well is what you are enjoying in terms of, you said to me, and we talk about it all the time, when you don't train for a day, for 2 days, for a week, then you get that, oh man, I just don't feel good. So actually,
Yeah.
rather than that training, because I totally understand, rather than me coming away from a training session, oh, I feel amazing. It's actually that has kept me at my kind of benchmark. I just feel generally good and I'm happy with how I feel. And it's kept me from dipping below that to, man, I
Mm.
feel sluggish, I feel really fluffy, I feel low energy. Because when I don't do stuff, my energy levels just drop so much. Like I just
Yeah.
can't be bothered to do it. It gets so lethargic. And I think it's that avoidance of that is what keeps me coming back to the training. And yeah, I can honestly say when I was doing a workout this morning, at no point was I enjoying myself. Like, but I got satisfaction from pushing to a certain point, from working out with somebody else, from being ahead of a few people. All these kind of things come into it. But at the time, I'm not like, oh, this is great. But I know
Yeah.
that if I
Yeah.
hadn't have gone, I'd be like, no, I should have gone to that thing.
Yeah, this is not good. I mean, it gets you into a spiral there as well, doesn't it? Because in just a couple of days, it's like over the weekend I trained, and we say training now. I'm not training. I'm somehow moving in that environment where there's some weights and some other people doing some
Mm,
exercise, but I'm still doing it. And there's some trigger there that makes my mood is better. I'm definitely more motivated afterwards to do more things. And
mm,
like the less I do there, the less I want to do everywhere else.
mm.
So I really need to, and it's almost like force myself to go um, and do those things to just keep going. Basically, it feels
Yeah.
a bit counterintuitive, but like I need to do that. I need to go and train and make
So
sure that I keep doing it.
yeah, and I'll give you a live example that happened this morning because this is how so training is part of my daily routine. It's just something that I do. I was driving back from the gym with Becky and needed to get some milk on the way back. So I said, oh, do you mind if we just quickly pop into the shop? There's a Tesco at the little Tesco at the top of the road. He said, no, that's fine. So I grabbed some milk and I said, oh, I should probably just go to mine and then I'll walk up to the shop later and get some exercise. And she went, you've just exercised. But I felt like I should do more exercise and I was like, oh
Mm.
yeah, oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
That's good.
I was just part of being, not
Yeah,
lazy and just
yeah,
doing some more active stuff. So I felt like, oh yeah, I should. But then I wanted to prep for this and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's super interesting. I just completely like it neutralized itself in my brain as
Yeah.
I haven't done exercise today, even though I just
Yeah.
spent 40 minutes like hanging on by my back flippers in a CrossFit pairs workout. So, yeah, it's cool.
Mm. I don't have the exercise requirement so much, but it's more like uh, I always think I was super lucky to have that reaction to training, no, because you could have that reaction and it's somehow probably an addiction as well, isn't it? Because if you
Mm,
only feel okay when you're training, this is a signature of addiction, isn't it? Because like for people who drink and they feel okay when they drink, or for people who take drugs, they
yeah.
feel okay when they take drugs. I think actually, like I feel okay when I'm training. Luckily, like that training um, bout lasts me to the next day. So I feel fine for that whole day. Good,
Mm,
let's say good. Feel good for that whole day, and then I get to the next day, and then I reset my day and my sort of motivation levels, my mood, and so on, with another round of training. And if like one day off, yeah, okay, fine. But just didn't realize that I need it that much because I'd always had this sort of loop of, oh yeah, actually, like 2 or 3 days, I don't feel very good, and I'd feel a little, just a bit on edge or whatever, and go and train would feel better. But just to sort of make that concrete, it's like you need to do that. Like that's like movement is medicine. It's like that's your medicine. Go
yeah.
and do that. That's okay. Like not everybody going to do it, but you need to do that.
Yeah.
Um, but you don't need to do it on your own. So I think this is also an interesting one. Is like I'm not very good at asking people for help for anything. So you don't need to do this hard stuff on your own. It's okay to ask for help. I think whether I would have listened to that when I was 21, I don't know, would be another story because you're in a different place, aren't you?
Mm,
Um, but people also like to help, don't they? So you don't have to do all this stuff on your own, whether it's training or whatever thing you're trying to accomplish. It's okay to ask people to help. And then sort of pivoting a little bit from there, I would tell myself to be less risk averse with finance and money because you can always make more money. But be more risk averse with your body because you've only got one. So this would be quite a big one. And then probably the last one would be just to get an early drop on what a trap stuff like Facebook and Instagram is, like you mentioned earlier. Like if someone said to me, like this is basically a digital drug, like just
mm,
stay away. Because I'm
yeah.
so lucky that we're never, I mean, I know you smoked for a bit, didn't you? But for whatever reason in my mind, like I was never going to smoke, I'm never going to do drugs, nothing. This is the same for me. Like Instagram trap and Facebook trap. Like lucky, I never looked at anything else. The way they're designed to sort of trap
Mm,
you in the amount of time that can use. This is one of those that's connected, I think, to the nothing good happens after 11 o'clock. Very little good happens on Instagram or Facebook.
what, yeah,
No,
unless, what value are you getting from scrolling through that stuff? Like,
it's wild. Huh?
Becky's pretty good. She saves posts for like places to eat, recipes to
Mm.
use. Like there is a productive element to it for her. I'm not like that, so
Mhm.
I just don't go on it. I'm like, apologies if any of our Instagram followers are hoping that we'll give them shout outs and read all their posts. Like occasionally I'll go through and I'll like stuff because I think, oh, that's cool. But it's really not adding anything to my life by spending any time whatsoever scrolling through any of it.
Yeah. So you just really take care with getting in that trap because it felt like I had honestly some like lost years probably
Hmm.
where I was on that quite a lot. I mean, I think it basically really kicked off in like Corona time, didn't it? Because
Hmm.
people didn't really have anything else to do, and it was almost the worst thing that people could have done, no? Because they're at home with their families. A lot of people at home with their families or girlfriends or whatever, boyfriends, and they're sitting at home, but everyone's sitting at home on their phone
Yeah.
instead of sitting at home paying attention to the people around them and so on.
Hmm.
That it really then caught a hold in it and accelerated because
Hmm.
before then, I mean, I think I've had Instagram since like 2013, 14 when it was just pictures. It was
Yeah.
just like a place to capture pictures, which was pretty cool. And then it's like morphed into this monster of a thing.
Yeah. Facebook
So
gone
yeah,
from that.
just to be aware of that, which I've only really become aware of in the last year or so, probably, to just really pay attention to that and just try not to be on there at all. Really.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good shout.
That would be my big ones. Yeah.
Nice. I I was going to drop in some stuff about reading, but my 21-year-old self actually would not have read
And this is the
anything.
thing, isn't it? It's the most critical thing. It's like you can tell them whatever you want, but you're kind of guided by your mindset at the time. And like what's the bandwidth on that mindset, isn't it? Because I like not even your 21-year-old self, if we just wind back, not even 2 years,
Yeah.
you were not interested in reading at all. Like, I can remember the number of times I say to you, like, oh, I read this book, or I send you this book. You just be like, no.
Nope.
So at least the cool thing there was you had very clear in your mind that you weren't a reader.
Yeah.
So you didn't use any time trying to like work out, am I a reader or not?
No.
Which
And
was
I
fine. And I was like, yeah, and I respected that. And I was like, yeah, cool. And so I wouldn't bother to send you any stuff because I
yeah,
think, well, I know he's not a
it's not going to
reader.
read
Like,
it.
this is not what he wants to do. And now you said, like, hang on a minute, having time to reflect and think about that. And actually, maybe this reading can bring some value to my life, and maybe being around Becky as well, which is the other thing that probably should go in this list. It's like really take care with the people that you surround yourself with,
Hmm.
and because the influence they have on what you do is huge, isn't it?
Hmm.
That you then decided, no, actually, like there's some going to be some useful benefit to my life of this. I'm going to be a reader, and
Yeah.
now you're a reader.
Yeah.
But yeah, but 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, no shot at all, is it? I
No.
don't think anyone would have convinced you.
No. And that's what I like about communicating really clearly with people. Because if I'd have gone, oh yeah, send it over, then not read it, and you'd have gone, have you read that thing? And I've gone, no. And you'd be like, well, why did you ask me to send it over then? It's like I'm
Yeah,
trying to
but I'm
please
also,
you by saying, yeah, oh
yeah,
yeah, send it over, I'll read it. But if I just said, no, I'm not gonna read this.
I'm a bit like you, I think, in that way. Is that actually, if I was being really honest, I would say just saying to me straight, yeah, yeah, I'm not going to read that, would probably offend me more than
Yeah.
saying like just send it over. Just being honest. Um, but if you then said to me I didn't read it, I'd have been like, okay, well, he was doing something else.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? So like I'm kind of easy either way. But it takes a while to get there as well, doesn't it? Because you're not about what someone else is doing. So like whether you read that or not, that's up to you. Like if I think, okay, that would be useful for you to read, yeah, cool, you can read it or not read it.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any difference to me in the end. Like I'm not upset now that that all that time that I was saying, oh, have you read this? Have you read that? No, 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 no. Now that you decide that you want to read, I'm not thinking, fucking hell. I was telling you to read all those things all that
Yeah.
time.
But
I'm
some
thinking,
people
oh,
could be.
cool. Yeah. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
cool. He's started to read.
Yeah. Some people
Good
could
for
be.
you.
And it's the
Yeah.
same. It's the same with with anything, even around like health and fitness. You have those people that you like crank on and on about wanting to lose weight, wanting to do this, wanting to do that, and you can say, "Oh yeah, come do this, come do that, come do that. Have you tried this? Have you tried this?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah." No, don't do it. And then 10 years later, they're like, "I'm really loving the gym at the minute," and you're like,
Oh, surprise.
but then you're just like,
Good.
you have to kind of catch yourself and you go, "That's awesome."
Yeah. But this
Like,
comes
forget
back to
all that
this.
stuff in the
Yeah.
past where you had the
Yeah.
opportunity to do this 10 years ago, and you just
Yeah.
go, I'm really glad that you're liking that. I'm really pleased that
Yeah.
you're into it.
Well, I mean, it's exactly this topic, isn't it? Like you can call your 21-year-old self as many times as you want. They are
Hmm.
not going to listen, are they? Because that's exactly that, isn't it? It's exactly that. You
Yeah.
you could have called them and said, go and train, go to the gym, lose some weight. Like you could have called your 16-year-old self. There's no way, man. What would you have done to convince your 16-year-old self to not hide the crisps under the bed and just go
Mm.
and do some exercise?
Mm.
There is not a shot, is there? Not a shot, you know. It's quite an interesting topic. Now, we were talking about it a little bit. It's like if you've got the opportunity to go back and call someone and give them that advice, it means they didn't listen to that advice anyway, did they? Because otherwise, you wouldn't have to go back and call
Yeah.
Back to the Future style.
Yeah.
Super interesting topic. But yeah, that one's a really interesting one, the weight loss one, because you think you just need to be happy for them in the end, don't you? So yeah, I told you that 400,000 times. I told you, man. And what? Now you do it? Yeah, okay, but good for you.
Now you do it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah,
Glad
now
you're
you
enjoying
do
it.
it.
I
Yeah.
so talking about reading, being a reader, as we're wrapping this one up, I have almost finished 12 Rules for Life by Jordan
Ooh,
Peterson. This is the second time I've tried to read it. Once when I wasn't a reader as part of 75 Hard. And
that's
I'm
easy when you're a reader.
It is easier when I read because you know what readers do?
Great.
They read. And this quote popped up, which he's actually quoting the Bible.
He's
So
a bit into the Bible, is old
he
JP.
does like a little bit of
He
religious
does like a bit of Bible.
religious chat. And it reminded me of you and knocking on doors and seeing what's happened. So this comes back to saying yes to stuff and the opportunities and kind of putting yourself out there a bit. And it is this. It says, ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be open unto you. For everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks, the door will be opened. And that is from Matthew 7:7 to 7:8. So I'm
Oh,
quoting original Matthew. And I think Mum said it best when she said, and I wrote this, I'd say this to people and I write this down all the time, if you don't ask, you don't get.
absolutely.
That is a
I mean, it's
mummism.
so, yeah, but it's so true. It's like literally as soon as you start to look, and we mentioned it in another podcast, didn't we? As soon as you start to look or get interested in a thing or dig into it, just the opportunities just pop up, start coming out, don't they?
Mhm.
Sometimes you have to wait. Sometimes it takes a while. But if you know what you're looking for and you're going in the right direction, I think you need that, don't you? You need the direction, like the
Mm,
intention and the direction, and doing the right things, and then yeah, knock and the door will open.
yeah. So if 21-year-old Will and 21-year-old Matt are listening to this podcast, you'll have doubled our audience. Hopefully, some of these stage words will come out. I think that's a good place to wrap it all up. This has been a bumper episode for episode 8. My favourite number, by the way, 8. In case you didn't know that. It's because I'm born in August. I just like it. It's quite literally a round number. Well, zero is a round number. Uh, Not get into this number chat.
Eight is two round numbers on top of each other.
True. I've really dropped the value in this podcast now. Yeah. So if you did make it this far and through that little car crash
Yeah,
of a
well
moment,
done.
well done. Thank you for listening. If you're on Spotify, thank you for watching. If you're on YouTube, appreciate y'all. We will be back at some point for episode 9 and then the finale. And then we just need to both get on with our lives, don't we? Do some,
Maybe if we
do
know what we're
something else.
doing, if we know what we want, we go and get it.
That's it. Do something
Maybe
else.
it's this, maybe it's something else.
Cool. Well, thanks for today. Thanks for the chat. Anything you want to say to these
It's
good
good.
people?
Yeah, thanks for hanging in there through all of that. Thanks for those ramblings. But yeah,
Cool.
just keep knocking. Keep knocking, those doors will keep opening.
Keep on knocking. Okay. That's goodbye. See ya.
Ciao.